Welcome back. We are setting aside some time this half hour to remember the life and legacy of Reverend Jesse Jackson. Today really begins his memorial services. The civil rights icon lies in repose at Rainbow Push Coalition headquarters in Kenwood as we speak. You can see folks are already going by to pay their respects. He had such a huge impact on so many lives. Team coverage of today's events as well. We will have a look back at the impact that Reverend Jackson made, not only in Chicago and these United States, but also around the world. We also have two guests joining us today, Rufus Williams and Lamell McMorris. We'll get to our guests in just a moment. Right now, we want to take a look back at Reverend Jackson's life. He's well known for his contributions to the civil rights movements. He twice ran for president, and he founded the Rainbow Push Coalition based here in Chicago to continue to fight for social change. And his impact has been felt all across the country and around the world. Our political reporter, Marion, has more on the legacy of Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson.
Few ever roared from a pulpit or podium like Jesse Louis Jackson.
I have determined that I will be what I want to be. Fly a plane, build a bridge, run for Congress, run for president.
Born in Greenville, South Carolina in 1941, Jackson was raised in the deep poverty of the segregated South. A high school athlete, he won a football scholarship to the University of Illinois, but headed home after only a year. He left, but in 1966, at the age of 25, he returned to study at Chicago Theological Seminary. He was young, ambitious, and increasingly controversial.
I am somebody.
Chicago became his base, his presence and power growing as a civil rights leader and as a politician.
From slave ship to championship, our time has come. From our house to White House, our time has come.
In 1984, Jackson unsuccessfully sought the Democratic presidential nomination. He ran again in 1988 and won 11 primaries before bowing out. He earned a primetime slot at the party's national convention and urged the nation to dream.
When my name goes in nomination, your name goes in nomination. I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me. And it wasn't born in you, and you can make it.
Jackson was the most prominent and controversial civil rights leader of his generation. He led crusades fighting black-on-black crime, urged students to excel academically, and implored generations to fight the growing dangers of illegal drugs. Still, controversy was an early and constant companion. He was in Memphis in 1968 when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. The morning after, Jackson appeared on television in a shirt he said was covered in King's blood, raising questions, according to author Barbara Reynolds.
No one knows where he got the blood because he didn't come near Dr. King.
There was blood on me because he was bleeding profusely. He had been shot in the neck.
What we have seen is the invention of a Negro leader or black leader.
First, Operation Breadbasket, then Operation Push became his platform. He helped oust Mayor Richard J. Daley and his allies from the 1972 Democratic National Convention. He battled Mayor Jane Byrne over minority participation over what was to become Chicago Fest. Chicago was his home, but the world was his stage. Fighting apartheid in South Africa, supporting Palestinian rights, and in 1984, securing the release of a downed American pilot in Syrian-held territory in Lebanon. Jackson married his wife Jacqueline Brown in 1962, and she remained in the shadows for the majority of his political career. Together, they had 5 children. Jesse Jackson Jr. carried his father's name and political ambition and was elected to Congress in 1995. But in 2013, he and his wife Sandy Jackson pled guilty to federal charges of misusing $750,000 in campaign funds. It was an anguishing family moment in the autumn of Reverend Jackson's career.
His will to public service continues. He's down, but he'll get back up again.
In November 2017, Jackson announced he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. He had noticed the symptoms 3 years prior. While the disease often leaves some with impaired coordination, that diagnosis did not stop Jackson's advocacy. Whether it was calling for police reform after George Floyd's murder or pushing for voting rights, Even willing to be arrested in the summer of 2021, Jackson demanded an end to the effort to restrict voting access.
Happy birthday.
On Jackson's 83rd birthday, October 8, 2024, he was surrounded by family, friends, and politicos at Mayor Brandon Johnson's City Hall office. While Jackson did not speak publicly, his son, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, noted the importance of giving flowers to great men and great women while they can still smell them. In November 2025, when Reverend Jackson was hospitalized, his family revealed a new diagnosis. He had progressive supranuclear palsy, or PSP. It's a neurodegenerative disease more serious than Parkinson's. The remarkable life of Jesse Louis Jackson began as the son of an unwed teenage mother with little prospects for a life of achievements, but blessed with intellect and a gift of oratory.
I can be what I want to be because there's a me that makes me me.
And the ability to seize the moment in both controversy and conviction. Jackson's name will long be remembered. And in a statement that may best sum up his life's journey, the Reverend Jesse Jackson said this: "Those of us who dare to be change agents, who lead by molding opinion and not following opinion polls, always rub the edges of our society."
As you can see from that piece and from the folks that are there at Rainbow Push, Reverend Jackson's impact knew no boundaries. It is part of the reason so many people are there at Push today, and so many others are seeking ways to honor his life and memory. Regina Waldrop is live for us at Rainbow Push headquarters at 50th and Drexel as Reverend lies in repose there. Regina?
And Marion, Mayor Brandon Johnson just showed up here, likely to be making his way inside shortly. But 8 o'clock this morning, I want you to take a look. This line started growing at 8 o'clock this morning, has not stopped. People are telling me that this is a sad day, but also it's a joyful day. A large screen with videos of Reverend Jackson. It is playing nearby some of his speeches as people wait to make their way inside Rainbow Push. I've talked to people who've come from work. Some people took the day off. There are people here in their 80s. Some of them brought their own chairs in case they would have to sit and wait. I've seen strollers. All are telling me that they came here today to honor this civil rights leader who reminded them that they are somebody.
You have to be grateful when God sends you someone to give you hope. I don't care how old you are. Hope, keep it alive. And this is what he said. We will always remember that.
And I remember Jesse Jackson being like my father. He always was with us, and he always cheered us on. Told us to do the right thing and be there, so I'm here.
It's a joyous day. It's sad, but it's joyous because he's not suffering anymore. He's in heaven. So I thought I'd come on down and show my respects.
Honored to be here to pay respect and homage to the Reverend Jesse Jackson. I spent some time in his headquarters, for union meetings and things like that. So just to be here is just humbling.
It's a sad day, but it is a celebration of life.
How are we going to keep his memory alive?
I think we have so many leaders that he has molded along the way and that he has impacted, and just to take what he has done for us in the past and just bring it with us in the future. Remember his motto, the things he has done for us, his impact he made in his mission, and I think we won't steer far. He made it really easy for us and opened up the road amazingly that he has done the hard work for us. So it's just us taking the next step.
He showed me that you have to keep hope alive, for one thing, right? And he showed me that you don't give up and you keep fighting for justice. And he did it so eloquently. Yes, I just miss him already. I loved him. My three men, Jack King, Jackson, Obama, I loved them.
Yeah, a lot of people out here saying that a lot, that they love Jesse, and you can hear them sometimes saying that, screaming that we love you, Jesse. Also, Epic Academy, they came here earlier, 9th through 12th grade, several dozen of them, students, and no doubt, I think a lot of schools today, tomorrow, may be bringing students here to say goodbye to Reverend Jesse Jackson. Marion.
That's a beautiful gesture. I think that's a good idea. So, Regina, you know, so many of us in the media have had experiences with Reverend. I wonder if you'd mind sharing your personal experience with Reverend and your mom.
Sure. So, Marion, my mother came to Chicago, part of the Great Migration. She loved Jesse Jackson. She would often listen to him when he was on the radio in our home. And then a few years ago, she was ill, but still loved Jesse Jackson. And I told her how I covered him a lot in my job as a reporter. Came to Rainbow Push one day, talked to his people. I said, hey, there's a woman who loves the Reverend. They said, give us your number, give us your mom's number. We're going to go see her. I didn't believe it. And one day I got a text, and they said, we're on our way. The Reverend is to see your mom. We're going to see Barbara Waldrop. You know, a lot of what he did was public, Marion, but this was something private, and it definitely meant a lot to that woman who grew up in rural Jackson, Mississippi. Back to you.
Thank you for sharing that, Regina. I'm sure there are many, many other stories just like that. And joining us now to talk more about Reverend Jackson and his contributions are Rufus Williams. I don't know why I want to take that S off your name. Twice I've done that. And Lamell McMorris. Rufus is the morning host on WVON Radio, and as past president of the Chicago Board of Education, worked with Reverend Jackson on many levels and many settings, and not just as the board president, of course. We're also joined by Lamell McMorris. Lamell is an author and a public policy advisor. He was Reverend Jackson's body man in 1999 to 2001, traveling with him around the country. He also grew up at Push as his mother worked with Reverend Jackson. Thank you both so much for joining us here. I wanted to have a little bit of an added perspective from people who knew him well and worked with him. So let me start off with you, Rufus. What are your thoughts about the Reverend and his life contributions, and what maybe his lasting legacy will be?
I think this is so significant in so many ways around the world. It's been, we're doing at WVON, we're covering all of this. So we're there all day today and tomorrow. And just seeing the people come in and hearing the different tributes to Reverend Jackson have just been phenomenal. He will be legendary for so many different reasons. And we think back to all of his history. I first came into contact with Reverend Jackson when I was in college. And he came down to Southern, and he was, you know, I am somebody, and we were the largest HBCU, and just all caught up in what it was that he was giving us with such inspiration. And then moving forward to being, when I was at the Board of Education, he was then pushing for equity and talking about the fact that Harper High School didn't have water in the swimming pool and comparing it to Nequa Valley and really pushing hard for those things throughout. And there has yet to be a situation where I've seen anyone who's come to the Reverend for anything when he has not been responsive to it. Just an amazing man, an amazing legacy, and all that we're seeing that's taking place today down in Rainbow Push has just been consistent with all of that, just as we see it.
Lamell, having worked so closely with him and having grown up with him, tell us a little bit about your experience, just what he meant to you. I know we can already see but what did he mean to you as a person who really was at his right hand for a couple of years there?
Mentor, boss, friend, chastiser, advisor. He's been all of that. And to see the world and the nation from his eyes, to have the honor to carry his luggage and Mrs. Jackson's luggage, right? But full circle, to be a child of the organization. My application for Morehouse College was sent, you saw they showed Reverend Tyrone Crider on the screen earlier, it was sent from the office at Rainbow Push. My scholarships were facilitated by Reverend Willie Taplin Barrow. So I can't help but think about Reverend Jackson and the entire organization and what it's meant to me. Personally, my mom, retired, working at Rainbow Push. I think about her and how he convinced her to work at the organization after she was supposed to stop working, Rufus, right? He wanted her to work at, and so
no, it's not a thing.
It has been a surreal, you know, to have just a few moments ago, I just stood over his body with his family, to take his body with his son to Leak and Sons Funeral Home shortly after he gave his last breath. It has been surreal, but it's also been gratifying and energizing to see the response and to know that I had a chance to walk next to a giant.
Certainly blessed in that respect.
Indeed.
Thank you both. We'll be back. We'll have more from you in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll take a look at the economic impact that Reverend Jackson was able to wield on behalf of the people. Please stay with us. Back now with our special coverage of Reverend Jesse Jackson. Many know Reverend Jackson wasn't afraid to put pressure on big corporations and institutions. As a college student in 1960, Reverend Jackson was arrested after a sit-in at a whites-only library in Greenville, South Carolina. So he learned the art of the boycott, and his activism continued for decades after that. So whether it was to encourage companies to hire black employees or demanding change in the aftermath of tragedies, Reverend Jackson was always front and center. Here's Rose Schmidt.
We're going to escalate now. Yesterday it was Michigan Avenue. Next will be State Street.
That was Reverend Jesse Jackson in 2015 in the aftermath of the shooting of Laquan McDonald, demonstrating his ability to make clear demands and influence change. His Rainbow Push Coalition has been powerful in improving economic opportunities for black and minority communities. Just last year, they joined the boycott of Target over its rollback of diversity policies.
Boycotts and learning that from Dr. King was really, that was one of his biggest weapons. From the Coke campaign, Don't Choke on Coke, to targeting Sears.
Brandon Pope, the president of Chicago's chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists, also sees the role Jackson had on his profession.
Jesse Jackson was often right there at the front lines, demanding change inside newsrooms with TV executives, with newsroom executives, to demand that more black people are elevated into major roles, to make sure they get jobs and opportunity, and to make sure that black stories are ultimately told.
A good example of that began with the demotion of veteran anchorman Harry Porterfield in the 80s. As a result, Reverend Jackson led a boycott of CBS Chicago.
This man was outside every day for 9 months outside of CBS, demanding that they promote black people into management. He understood the importance of not just having black people on TV, on screen, but also making the decisions of power inside newsrooms, making the editorial decisions inside newsrooms.
Another industry Jackson was not afraid to take on was big tech. He attended Facebook and Google shareholder meetings and pressured Silicon Valley companies to embrace diversity in their boardrooms. I think this is a central part of his legacy, gentlemen. Rufus, first of all, what was the lasting result of that part of his work, do you think?
You know, I think back, Reverend Jackson said, we don't want welfare, we want our share. And his push in so many different places was to give us access. And we see that in a number of the companies. I love what we see in Loop Capital and John Rogers' firm, and places in Coors, and places where he just went and was unafraid to take on the biggest people to fight for inclusion.
And Lamell, you would be by his side at times when he'd be in the room when these discussions were happening with corporations and institutions. What did you learn, if anything, when you watched him?
To be bold. To not be afraid to challenge, to not be afraid to ask, to not be afraid to bring people with you in the room. You know, he was the tree shaker. So you have to have folks there to catch the fruit and to catch the jelly, right? And they called him the jelly maker. But he was unafraid and unashamed to challenge the biggest CEOs in the world.
Yeah. And some of the projects that people may not be aware of are things like the Wall Street Project. The Wall Street Project was huge. Rufus, tell us a little bit about that impact even today.
You know, there's so much money that goes out, whether it's pension funds, 401ks, whatever it is. We participate in the investment and the money that goes in. Reverend Jackson asked, why aren't we as well participating with the firms who are investing this money? And so he brought us to Wall Street to say right here, these are people who have the capacity, have the intelligence, and should be involved in this investment, and took it right to Wall Street, because when you're talking about money, that's what you're talking about. And that's where that investment really happens. And he was very forthright and going there right to the belly of the beast and saying, we need participation.
And this was an annual event. It wasn't like it was 1 year. It wasn't a one-off. It happened every single year.
I am not disappearing because you didn't listen to me last time. I'm going to make sure that we're always on this case.
And Lamell, quickly, also supplier diversity, another opportunity for African Americans to make their way in the corporate world. What did he do there?
Yeah, but not just African Americans.
All people, right?
Women. He was women. You know, he really did live the Rainbow Coalition. He fought for everyone, but surely he understood the disparity between African American businesses and gaining opportunity and access, supplier diversity. I can name all the business leaders that would accompany us and who benefited: John Rogers, Loop Capital, Jim Reynolds, etc. So many women and men around the country are beneficiaries of Reverend Jackson's legacy and his work.
No doubt about it. Thank both of you gentlemen for being
you.
here. I know we could talk all day. There's plenty to do
Absolutely.
as it relates to Reverend Jackson, though. Still ahead, a look at the lasting impact Reverend Jackson has had on Chicago. We'll be right back.
This, of course, I worked on his '88 campaign. He believed in me. He supported me. He mentored me. So I thanked him and thank God for his life. Reverend and Mrs. Jackson. The other thing for young people, he started as a young man. He started as a kid, a college student, and evolved to where he is now. You know, he didn't just become Jesse Jackson. Start wherever you're at. Start in grammar school, start in high school. Get involved, get engaged, fight, speak up, speak out.
He said that because we all are somebody and we all matter. We was talking about how Jesse Jackson was an outstanding person and how he gave us the ability to be able to come to the school today and giving us the ability to have equal rights as other people. And his famous quote is, "Believe in yourself." And every day I come to school and believe in myself and strive for greatness.
To know that Reverend Jesse Jackson has been at St. Sabina Academy, it is just an amazing, amazing feeling. And we want our kids to know that this is not a common experience. This is something special that we should hold true and value because most schools don't have that experience.
He fought against discrimination.
That's all you got. He was an activist. And he fought for what was right. And because of that, and he knew, he worked with Martin Luther King. And since he did that, the world changed. I think it's important because you have a voice for a reason, and you should always use that, even if you're scared.
Out of the mouth of babes, huh? No matter the time we had here to honor Reverend Jackson, we wouldn't be able to scratch the surface of his contributions. I want to speak mostly to the things he did when no one was watching. Several individuals, like Regina, experienced moments when Reverend Jackson may have encouraged them, helped a friend, advocated for a quiet cause, or just showed up. His presence alone had the kind of impact that made people take notice. I am honored to have known him and to have personally witnessed many such moments. May we all strive to continue his good work. We will, of course, have continuing coverage of the homegoing services for Reverend Jackson through the weekend. Our next newscast is coming up at 4 o'clock, but you can always catch the latest information anytime you like at NBCChicago.com or on the NBC Chicago app. Have a good afternoon.